I think one of the biggest reasons why people want to open an indoor play area, especially if you have young children like I do, is the fact that you get to bring your kids to work. So I thought I would make a really quick video about some of the pros about having your kids at work, but some of the biggest cons about actually being able to bring them to work. So I feel like the pros are things that you probably already considered yourself. That's probably the reason why you are kind of watching this video. I probably don't have to go into too much depth about it. I think the biggest pro is that you get to spend a lot of times with your kids. You don't miss all those little milestones that maybe other working parents do. I feel like that is a really big item on people's checklist to be able to have their own business, just be able to see their kids every single day, see them grow up every single day, be there for every little step that they take, and not missing out on their life. You know, I see sometimes working parents that do miss out on those things and they wish they couldn't, and then that's the reason why people kind of try to lean towards wanting to have a stay-at-home business so that way they can be there for their kids. I love being able to make my own schedule. I love being able to, itemize what I'm doing in my work life around their schedule, so I can take them to their gymnastics class, I can take them to their sports event, I can take them to school and pick them up from school. I remember when I was growing up, my parents would work all the time, and not every single time were they able to pick me up from school. So I feel like as a childhood, some of those factors are really important, even though you don't really think about it. So being able to make your own schedule is a really big pro, but it's also a con, and I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. Something you probably didn't even think about was that all the friends they would make here at your indoor play space. So my son, who's 5, he has very great verbal skills now, he makes tons of friends here, and people come and members will come and ask specifically to see him. So I think that's nice that I can make friends outside of our circle and be able to meet other parents in the community that my son can connect with. And my daughter, she can speak, but she's not at the place where she can have proper conversation with other kids yet, so she doesn't make far as many friends, but I think that that's a really big pro, especially if you have a child that maybe needs a little bit more of that social interaction. So having that is really ideal, especially if you are wanting to own an indoor player. So let me talk to you a little bit about the cons. I feel like there was far many more cons, and I feel like that's something that people don't think about when they are wanting to open this place. They just see all the great things and the great benefits, but they don't think about what happens when their kids are here for very, very long periods of time. So I think one of the biggest cons is that your kids can be very distracting. You don't have very much time to yourself to concentrate on certain tasks for long periods of time, because they're here, they want your attention as well. Sometimes they get bored, or sometimes they just have emotional breakdowns, and then you need to be there for them. Just knowing that you don't have a lot of time in between things to get tasks done when they're here, and then also you can't concentrate on your customers as well, or you can't concentrate on them as well. So if you have a customer at the front desk and your child is crying, you kind of have to weigh, like, should I attend to my child, or should I go and make money or collect the funds at the front desk? So things like that can be really distracting to your work environment and your workplace, although the parents that are coming here usually are very understanding about that because of the fact that they're parents too. But I feel like in a situation like this, when you're trying to work and make sure that your kids are doing well as well, it can be very stressful at times. One of the things that I notice if my kids are here for long periods of time is that they can be very destructive. And this happens to all the kids that come here, not just my kids. If they're here for more than like 3 hours at a time, they start playing a little bit more creatively. So they start breaking things or breaking the rules. And I constantly have to keep reminding them that there are certain rules that we have to follow when we're here, and you have to set a good example. But when you have toddlers, it's really hard to emphasize that with them or teach them those things, especially when you are here working. And it is kind of embarrassing at times to have to yell at your own kids when they are here, even though you're the owner. You want them to set a good example. You want them to show that other kids, this is how you should be behaving in the indoor play area. And if your kid is behaving that way, how can you enforce the rules on other kids? So just think about that when you have your kids here for very long periods of time. It's nice, my littler one sometimes will nap here, so there's a big chunk of time where she is not playing in the environment, and then when she comes wakes up and she's a little bit renewed, that's nice. But for my older child who is a little bit more into other things, if he's here for long periods and long stretches of time, I do notice a little bit more destructive behavior on his part. The other thing that is kind of an annoyance on my factor is that if he is here for a long period of time, he gets bored, right? So if he gets bored, then he wants to do other things like watch YouTube or, play on my phone, That's not the best example to show other kids that, you want them to come here to play, pay to play, pay to do an educational activity or create memories over their parents, not play on their phone. So, you have to kind of think about those things when you're here for long periods of time with your children. Also, the other thing you have to think about is if you have a very good support system. That's just really, really important. Do you have good employees that are reliable, that can be on call? What happens if your child is sick and they can't come in? They have a fever or they have a really bad cough, you can't bring them in during those times because you don't want other kids being sick and you don't want to encourage other parents to bring their sick kids to your play place. So just thinking about that, for me, my husband generally works from home, so it's really nice that we have that balance. But maybe you have a spouse that doesn't work from home. That can be really hard on you because you might have to close down your business for a day. Some customers are not very reasonable regarding that. They hate coming to a place when it's supposed to be open and it's not open. And then having employees is great for that, but then the only thing is you just have to remember that employees is a very costly expense on your part. So having to schedule an employee to come in, that means lost revenue for you sometimes. So there is a balance between that. So making sure that you have a really good support system in place, making sure that you have, a great employee that can come in, during the times that you are not able to come in is really important. Sometimes, employees have their own schedule too, and sometimes it's not going to be able to happen, and you might have to close for a certain amount of time. So just being able to think about that. What happens when your kid is sick and you can't bring them into work? When you're opening an indoor play area, just expect like the first few years, I would say like 3 years, that you're going to be here for a very, very long time, for long hours, and you work many, many hours. So although you get to make your own schedule, this is what I think the con is. You can schedule yourself around your kids. You can put them to bed, things like that. But then that means that you end up working really odd hours, right? So you end up working after they go to sleep, and that means more loss of sleep for you, more stress on your shoulders. So I just think that even though you get to have them here with you all the time, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are very productive the whole time. So then your productivity happens when you're not with them or when they're sleeping. And that means that very long hours for you. So if you're just somebody that needs consistent hours or just needs somebody that wants to only work a certain amount of hours, owning an indoor player is definitely not for you. I generally work probably about 60 hours a week, and I expect it to be that ongoing no matter if I'm here or not. So that's one of the really hard things about owning your indoor play space and having your kids here with you all the time, is that you end up working late at night or early in the morning before they wake up, and then bringing them here and not getting very much done while you're here, because you're also with them. One of my biggest problems is that my kids eat all like my snacks, so they come here and they want snacks, and I bring them snacks sometimes, but they still want the snacks that we have here. That's just the way toddlers are. So just knowing those things, that sometimes that's one of the cons, that they're here just making a mess and eating your snacks. So you're like basically double cleaning because of the fact that they're here. And also you're wasting some of your expenses because they're eating the snacks that you could be making money off of. I feel like sometimes people think that just because they bring their kids to work, they can enjoy a lot of the time with their kids, and I feel like that's not it. But because they're at work with you, you don't get to enjoy that time with them as much as you think that you would like. You end up kind of prioritizing what's important, I need to get all this stuff done, while they're here. So it's not, even though they're here with me, it's not like I'm always constantly, making memories with them, which I think that's what people want to do by owning this play space. But that's the thing. I mean, we're here to work, we're not here technically to play, even though for them, it's one and the same. So hopefully this video kind of helps you a little bit to kind of give you an insight about what my daily life is like when my kids are here. It gives you a little bit more insight on what it's like to actually bring your kids to work, so you're a little bit more prepared if you ever do open an indoor play area. Talk to you soon. Bye.